Hi, I'm Amy.
And I'm Kirsty.
And this is our podcast covering the highs, lows, and realities of parenting a child with neurodiversity.
Each week we'll be sharing updates from our lives and hearing from a variety of guests about their advice and experiences.
This is Love Needs No Words. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Love Needs No Words. First of all, we must say thank you to everyone for voting for us in the Quill Podcast Awards. We're finalists, Kirst. I can't believe it.
It's so exciting.
I can't quite believe it, but it's all down to you all.
It's so lovely that people have supported it.
Yeah.
I wasn't really expecting it to become a finalist, to be honest. I don't really know what I was expecting when we found out we were in the semi-finals, but I was quite just chuffed, to be honest. I was really chuffed that we got there. So
yeah. So yeah, thank you so much, because it was all down to you guys that we got into the finals, and then the winners revealed on the 27th. So fingers crossed.
Watch this space.
Yeah, exciting stuff. So how's your week been, Kirst?
Do you know what? I've had quite an uneventful week, which I'll absolutely take, to be honest. Not a huge, nothing drastic's happened this week. School, it's been quite a positive week. Max has got more one-to-one now, which is obviously making a massive difference. So so that's really positive. We had a nice weekend, a busy weekend, lots of different bits and pieces going on. We went to a birthday party, which Matt and I both walked away afterwards and thought this wouldn't have been as much of a positive experience as it was a year ago. So that's a really nice place to be. And he had a lovely time. He is an absolute, who knew, he's a whiz at piñatas.
Amazing.
He has so much strength. He has so much strength. How was yours? You've had a much more exciting weekend.
Well, I was going to say, actually, it's nice, isn't it, when you can look back sort of a year ago, and we talked on the podcast a bit about Max at birthday parties, and there'll be so many people listening that birthday parties just fill them with dread, and you don't quite know how they're going to behave and things like that.
Still fill me with dread, I'm not going to lie, but this was in a garden. It was a good friend of mine, so I wasn't actually, and Matt and I were both there, so I was actually not anxious to go to this one, but I still have a lot of anxiety when it comes to birthday parties, quite understandably. If you've ever attended a birthday party with a child that struggles in like a hall or with a bouncy castle in a confined space, just has the best time but doesn't know when to stop and doesn't know when to go, okay, obviously because he's 4, doesn't know when to go, okay, I can feel myself getting hyped up here, I need to walk away. But we're not there yet, but so much better than it was a year ago. So that was really just nice.
It's such a win, and isn't it? And I think also like you, as time goes on, you kind of learn techniques at work, but also you and your partner learn who is best in certain situations. And to top it all off, I just think them being outside is a game changer for us, for sure. Enjoy your weekends outside. You're not sort of cooped up indoors and thinking, what am I going to do? There's not many options.
100%. This weather, it makes me realise just how challenging actually we find the winter, because confined spaces, and I mean we've spoken about this so many times, but soft plays are an absolute no. So activities that other families would find like an easy win in the winter are just so challenging for us. So nobody wants to be stood in a park in the middle of pouring rain and howling winds, but that's where we find ourselves, or trapped in, and he doesn't, none of us particularly enjoy that, I must be honest. We like to get out and about as a family. So I love this weather.
Yeah, me too. You can see where people are happier in warmer countries, can't you?
Yes. Do you know what, I was listening so at my work they did a sort of session, and they were doing it around mental health and different strategies, and there was some fantastic people on there that were talking about their own sort of journeys with mental health. And one lady was saying on there that she has a sad lamp that she uses over the winter, and I thought, what a good idea. I don't think I suffer necessarily from sad, but I can definitely see the difference between winter and summer.
Oh, 100%.
Between night and day.
You can get light bulbs as well that do the same thing. I can deal with December because I'm like, this is Christmas, build up to Christmas. But January and February, I am so over it. I'm like, just give me the sunshine. So this is I'm in the best place ever right now. Just, do you know what it is as well? Putting the kids to bed, and I grew up with a dad that was like out until the sun went down. So even now, I'll put the kids to bed and say to John, right, I'm off, and I'll go for like a 40-minute walk, and it just clears my head at the end of the day, and then I can come back and just relax. And I feel, I'm so here for this weather. I just feel like it just gives you more, you feel like you've got more of the day as well, which is just great.
Yeah, I've met middle age as well. I've started gardening. I'm absolutely loving gardening. It's so therapeutic. Once I put them to bed, I'm out there watering my plants. In fact, I'm thinking, whilst we're recording this podcast, why am I not out there watering my plants? I love it. It's so mindful. The only thing, and not to bring a downer on this, the only thing, the light mornings, I think, are causing havoc with sleep. We have had some brutal mornings the last few weeks, and we are not sure whether it is a combination of the early mornings and the light. I suspect there's part of that to play, and the iPad.
Yes.
This is something I was going to discuss with you. I totally get the need for regulation through a device or an iPad or television, whatever. And I can see the benefits of it. I can see with my child that I think that it causes him to not properly shut down at night. And I think it makes him wake up, because when we're not really strict about saying, okay, you've got X amount of time in the morning and the evening, and kind of really keeping it quite controlled, if he has unlimited access to it, his sleep inevitably starts to slowly get worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
And I never know whether this is just a bit of a coincidence or whether there's actually something in it. I'd love to hear from people if they experience the same, because I mean, I have no concerns with him watching it for regulation, and I definitely think there's a place for it, but I do think it impacts his sleep.
Yeah, so as you know, Alex used his iPad for a long time to regulate, and I actually don't know what we would have done without it at that time, because it was definitely his safe space in a time that was extremely overwhelming for him. And he used to love watching different things. He used to play lots of different games that I think were quite useful at that stage. And even now, if we're out somewhere and he feels really overwhelmed, he'll try and find our phones to escape. So I always have it in my trouser pocket, and I just feel this little hand tapping against my pocket. And it's just him trying to say, look, I need to escape and go into my own little world for a bit. However, for us, with Alex, as his understanding developed and he became more interested in playing with toys, which took a long time, by the way, he needed his iPad less and less in the day. And because of that, when he needed to zone out, he would grab the remote, and I introduced Disney films for him to watch. So he likes two in particular, Frozen and Moana, and he will sit and watch them start to finish, which I never would have thought that would happen. And what I like about films is that there's a beginning, a middle, and an end, because he got to the point where he was just flicking from one thing to the next on his iPad, and I honestly couldn't see what the benefit was of him being on it in the end. We've also just introduced The Snail and the Whale and The Gruffaloes, the Julia Donaldson books on iPlayer, and they're so wonderfully put together, and both of our kids love watching them. And again, it's got a beginning, a middle, and an end, and so it just prevents him from, as I say, like he was doing at the end with his iPad, was just kind of flicking from one thing to the next, and also watching things where I just felt like didn't have any like context to it, and he wasn't learning anything. But listen, you know your child, and I think each child is different to how much they need to regulate, and also you know how much is regulation and how much, for my situation, for example, was just a bit of an addiction. And I just sort of got to a point where I was like, he's not learning anything from this. So if I can get him to do something else, maybe I can, wean him off bit by bit, which is what happens. His iPad's now in a drawer, and I genuinely don't think he knows he's got one anymore. But they can be such an amazing tool. They've got loads of apps on it that they could be learning from. So, it's also an amazing bit of equipment. They've even got tools that we've discussed. There's tools on there to actually learn how to speak. So I think they're incredible. But yeah, as a parent, you know how much is regulation and how much is them just wanting it. If he's enjoying it in the evening and he's getting a lot out of it, then it's a difficult one, isn't it? But Alex is an early riser as well. He's awake anywhere between 5 and 5:45 a.m. But I won't put anything on the TV until 6. And so I will just keep taking him back to his bedroom. You know, it's tough going back and forth, but I think it's important that he learns that he also just can't have it because he's up. So yeah, but again, arguably, if he was having a massive meltdown, he was getting extremely stressed because he couldn't have it, would I give in? Yes, probably, because it's 5 a.m. and we're all tired. So as I say, every child is different. It took a long time for Alex to get to this point, as nothing else really excited him or motivated him, and he learned a lot from it at one point.
The thing with Max that's always been, I've always found unusual, he's never watched the television, ever. He will not watch the television. Just doesn't get any kind of, just has never bought into it, never as a baby, never as a toddler. And then he only had a sort of iPad device thing from maybe 2.5, 3, something like that. Yeah, closer to 3. And then he started just watching sort of, TV programs on it. And I don't know what it is about having, whether it's a control thing that he's got it, or whether it's because it's closer to his face. I'm not sure. But yeah, it can be the same program, but he will not watch it on the television, but he will watch it on a screen. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm not sure, but watch this space with that one. But I'm not loving the early mornings.
No.
Thank goodness it's light for me when inevitably one of us has to come downstairs.
Yeah.
Bleary-eyed in the morning. I know we're not the only people in this boat. I feel like there's a lot of people nodding along.
I'm just like, what would we do without coffee? Like, honestly.
I know, yeah, but that's bad. I've started drinking so much more coffee than I ever used to.
Oh, I'm like straight down, like, oh, I cannot wait for that morning coffee. Just come alive.
Yeah. I feel like a different person.
Yeah.
How was your weekend anyway? Because I know you had an exciting one.
Yeah, it's been good. So Isabel turned 2 on Saturday, which was really lovely. Yeah, we had a really nice day, did a bit of swimming, went to the park on her new scooter. Alex had a go on his scooter as well. It's like, again, something I never thought he would even attempt, but they'd said he'd been doing it at school, and I thought, really? And then we had one in the garage, and so when we went down with her, John was with him and I was with Izzy, and yeah, he did give it a good go. He's a very anxious boy anyway, so as soon as it started to wobble a little bit, he stopped, and then we left it, and then we said, like, go on, have another turn, as we left. And it's lovely to see his confidence coming out, because subconsciously he's looking at her, isn't he, and thinking like, well, she's a lot younger than me and she's doing it. So it was really nice, and also nice to obviously to see her come down and get so excited about the fact it's her birthday. And Alex was really excited as well, because I think it was only last year that Alex truly got that it was a special day for him, where in previous years he would just sort of come down stony faced and we'd be like, yeah, it's your birthday.
Stare at you.
Yeah, just staring at me, bless him, with his like cute serious eyes. So yeah, it was a really special day for that, because it was like, oh, we've not experienced this before. So no, it was really lovely. But yeah, I was going to bring up something. So Alex's new thing at school and at home is pushing people. So we're not sure what that's all about, but with John, it's because he wants him to run around the house and make him jump and tickle him. So as soon as John gets in from work, he says to him, come and give me a kiss. And he's just started going with his lips now, which is really sweet. But then he'll push John as soon as he gets in, as if to say, could you run around the house and chase me? So John will say, do you want to play chase? You say chase, and he'll go chase. And then that's that. But he's doing it with people if we're out and about, and he's been doing it with the teachers as well at like the end of the day. So they're saying to me, if I'm talking to them, they're saying to me, oh, he's saying that he's done, like, you're done now, I'm going home, sort of thing. But we met friends in the park on Saturday, and John had, we'd not seen them for ages, and they came over and Alex was pushing them. And I just made a joke of like, oh, sorry guys, you've not made the cut or something. But obviously people are okay and like cool about it, but it is obviously just his social cues are just terrible. It is just that really blunt way of saying we were having a really nice time actually, and you
I don't really want you here.
Yeah If you could
can
just
you go
accept
away?
that, because
It's his way of saying, can you go away? Actually, no, I don't want you here.
it's really awkward, but actually when you break it down, that is it.
That's what he's trying to
His
say.
way of saying,
Yeah.
we were having a lovely time, you've just come over here,
Yeah.
like, could you go away now?
Max does the same thing and always has done. Like,
Has he?
even at the
Okay.
party, 100%. Even at the party, at the weekend that I was talking about, he was on the bouncy castle, and there was 3 of them, I think, and they were all, it was not bouncy castle, trampoline, sorry.
Yeah.
They were having a nice time. It was obviously going the way that he wanted it to go. He was having a lovely time. Somebody else got on the trampoline and he pushed them. In his mind, he's thinking, I don't want you here. And even though he has the vocabulary to say, I don't want you here, he doesn't know that that's what he should say. He doesn't know to say it. So he'll push. Absolutely. Or if he's in a situation where he feels uncomfortable or not certain, he'll push. And he used to do it to my nephew a lot. Like, so when Max was about 3, we had it really bad, where he would literally push his cousin over all the time, and it was awful. And my nephew was only about 18 months old, did not obviously understand why he was being pushed over, and would get quite upset, which wasn't nice for any of us, to be honest. But it was just Max saying, just go away. Like, I don't want you close to me. I don't want you in my vicinity. I'm overwhelmed.
Oh, I'm really glad I brought this up, because it's things like this. It's so helpful because you've not brought that up before, actually. So this is great, because you're right. It's just, that makes so much sense.
What I've really realised with a child like Max is that nothing's quick. It's consistency. It's over and over and over again until they learn the skill, because it doesn't come naturally. The things that other children just will naturally, instinctively learn, they just don't have that when it comes to social skills. And they won't read the cues in the same way that other children of their age will. So he thinks nothing of the fact that, do you know what, actually all I want is for that person to not be here for whatever reason, and I will just push them away. And it has got less and less, I must be honest. It's, to be honest, we deal with different things now. I've spoken quite candidly about the fact that we've gone through biting. That's been really challenging. I would say we have less of that now, but we now have, he'll grab your arm, and that hurts, obviously, and that's not nice. But it's just that way of saying, I'm overwhelmed, I'm out of my comfort zone, I don't know what to do, I've got too much energy, I feel stressed. And that's his way of, like, and he literally, on his face, he's like grimacing when he's doing it, because it's just like that tense feeling in your body where you just think, oh, and and that then comes out, and it's hard, because it's gone from it's always something physical, but it's gone from pushing and biting to this and this and this. And I think slowly we're getting there. He does recognize, okay, I'm doing it, but I know I shouldn't be doing it. So I feel like that's a massive step forward. Absolutely, and I think in time he will learn to be able to probably not control it for a long time, but be able to channel it in other places. But it's, I feel like it's just one, it's phases, isn't it?
100%.
It'll be, you're in a sort of situation with Alex where he started to push. That'll be a phase, and then that'll be something else, and it's always going to be in these social situations. But if we think logically, our children are in social situations all the time, so it's not surprising that there's going to be different things over the years.
But I was going to mention school as well, because obviously he's now staying there for year 1, and we've got him a 1-to-1, which is great. And now the words are coming. The speech and language therapist has found lots of techniques that they can use during phonics and maths, and lots of different things that they can utilize, which is brilliant. And we actually had somebody from a special needs school come in and observe Alex the other day, and they're called an outreach team, and I wanted to mention it on the podcast because it's something I hadn't heard of before. I went to look around a special needs school and they mentioned it, but any mainstream school can get these outreach teams from a special needs school to come in and observe the children, and they don't just give the school techniques, they also give you a call after and talk you through what they've seen, what they think on whether they think they are right for a special needs school at that particular time, and if so, where do they think they would sit, because that's also another difficulty of where your child sits if you're not sure. Best thing ever. And I didn't know about it, so I was like, I've got to mention it on the podcast because it's such a brilliant idea. And to top it all off, these members of the outreach team sit on the panel. So they go to panel loads. So she observed Alex. She 100% agreed that he was in the right place at the moment with a one-to-one, gave them techniques on a variety of different things that they asked about. So that was great. And then she had a call with me the following day, and she said to me, look, I feel like he's in the right place at the moment. If I was looking at where he was at the moment and he was 8 or 9, I would be saying he's perfect for a special needs school. But I feel because the words are coming, his understanding's coming, and cognitively he's higher than where we would sit him. Now, they were coming from a specific special needs school, which John and I were quite keen on when we were going down that route. But I said, look, that's all well and good, and I completely understand that. But come year 2, he's going to need, so he's got a one-to-one for the morning for year 1, and then he's going to have a bit of free play / bucket time in the afternoon. Come year 2, he needs a full-time one-to-one because, you know, the curriculum gets harder.
Yeah.
So I said to her, I don't want to be having this fight this time next year. And I'm already anxious about the fact I'm going to have to go through this whole thing again, because it's not been easy to get Alex one-to-one at all. As you know, I've had to get the local MP involved, which really did help. So it's worth reaching out. But she said, no, you're right. She said, how is Alex meant to thrive in a year's time if you've not got the funding? So I'm going to go back to the panel and I'm going to push for that. So we'll see if anything comes of it. But she was quite passionate, very understanding. And it sounded like she was going to go and do her best anyway. She's like, well, why not put the money in place now? Why wait another year? And I said to the school, look, if anything, she was more helpful than the local authority, because we've had, you know, well, Alex's first EHCP had about 4 or 5 caseworkers. Some went on leave and didn't tell me. Some went on full, you know, some left and didn't tell me. We've had all of that, as you've had a nightmare as well. And actually, for somebody to come in from the outreach team, meet Alex, do a review, give the teachers some support, me some support, and then say, oh, I'm going to go and take that back to the panel with my evidence and my suggestions for funding. And I was thinking, what a breath of fresh air, and also more helpful than any caseworker I've had from the beginning of this journey. So yeah, to anyone listening, and you can reach out to your local special needs school and see if they've got an outreach team, because I really rate it. She was absolutely brilliant.
Such a positive story. Max will be seen by an outreach team as well, but because he's really young in year, they can't see him until he's 5. So I'm not sure whether that's a UK-wide thing. I don't know whether it's this particular outreach provision, but they will come in at the beginning of year 1, basically. They've already committed to doing it, so that's really positive, and they work with the school and have done with previous children as well, so that's really nice. The school have a relationship with the team, but he won't be seen until year 1, and it's really frustrating, I think, for me, because I appreciate that he's young in year, but actually he's gone the entire way through reception. And we highlighted this a good few months ago, that he could have really valued it, and the school would have been, you know, found it really helpful. But he's not able to access it because he's not 5 until later on in the year. So that's I'm looking forward to hearing what they have to say, and they're part of an outreach team that children also can go to that outreach provision if they are finding mainstream school very difficult and are sort of in that space of potentially falling out of mainstream school. They're sort of vulnerable in the system, in the sense of they are facing exclusions, suspensions, not being able to attend for various different reasons. So they do both. So I'm really interested to hear what they have to say.
That's brilliant.
And actually it's quite a good time for it to happen in year 1 as well, because as we found when he went into reception, we sort of had a bit of a honeymoon period when he went in, and it seemed to be going quite well. And then when the reality of it hit, it all sort of it fell off of a cliff face really by Christmas. And then after Christmas was particularly difficult. So that's one thing we're preparing ourselves for with the transition to year 1, that actually it might be okay, but then, as you highlighted, actually the demands ramp up, and they've been quite clear to me that this is what happens in year 1 as well. The demands ramp up, and there'll be certain things that he's equipped for. He loves phonics, but he finds handwriting incredibly difficult, and they write a lot. So we've been talking about how we can support him with that, and the school has sort of said, you know what, we will try and work with him to, you know, to get there with his writing. If it's looking like it's just something that's causing a barrier to him being comfortable in the classroom, being able to access the curriculum and such, like, he can use a laptop. So over the summer, he's doing it already, he's like learning to type on the laptop, but over the summer we're going to work with him just with a Word document, and he can spell out the words and stuff. So, you know, so we're going to do that just so that he's ready, because I can foresee what's going to happen, and I'm not being negative, but I think, you know, don't you? You just know. And he will learn to write. He will. I don't think it's ever going to be his, you know, I don't think it's ever going to come particularly easily. He's very hypermobile in his fingers, so having any pressure on the pen and on the paper is really hard. His words are huge, so that's where, you know, one area that he finds quite difficult. So I said to school, like, if that's one thing that we can do to support him and take the pressure off, let's do it. Like, you know,
100%.
There's got to be a way around it, and of all the things, it's just, for me, we can definitely find a workaround for that.
All children aren't going to learn the same. And, you know, Alex's whole curriculum next year is being altered to suit him. Instead of him saying there's 4 frogs on the screen, he can show the teacher that the number 4. So it's just adapting the way that they're being taught to suit them. But it doesn't mean they're not capable. It's just that they're learning in a different way.
Absolutely.
And that's okay.
Yeah, we're talking about transition to year 1 already, which is just
yeah, it's mad, isn't it?
It's a lot, yeah. Where did that come from? We were just literally talking what feels like 5 minutes ago about the fact they were going to go to school.
I know, it's gone so quick, hasn't it? It's mad. We must talk about the news that's come out about EHCPs and not giving EHCPs to children in mainstream schools. What did you make of that?
So I will quite openly admit that I'm someone that can read stuff like this and get immediately quite emotive about it and frustrated. I haven't got a huge amount of confidence that this isn't linked to funding cuts and provision cuts, if I'm honest. I don't believe that the whole system works as efficiently as it can do. Anyone that's gone through the EHCP process will know how frustrating it is and how challenging it is. However, it's vital to have an EHCP to safeguard these children and ensure that legally there's a framework there to support them, to envisage a situation where your child who's in mainstream, who really is only there through the adaptations that are stipulated in their EHCP, the thought of not having an EHCP is terrifying. And I know that without that, we would be in a very different situation.
100%
right now. So I'm behind all of the shouting and campaigning and, you know, speaking up that various others in our community are doing right now, to say, actually, you can't just take something away and potentially not replace it with something that's not better. Because what happens to the most vulnerable children in our society who need this support? And I know this coincides with various different other things that they're trying to put through in terms of wellbeing bills, etc., which are also controversial and people are not necessarily looking at in a positive light, understandably. So it feels like quite a vulnerable place to be, I think, at the moment, when you've got a child who relies on this to be able to be in education. I guess it's a watch this space to see what happens, because it's important, I think, not to try and jump too far ahead and fill yourself with fear
before
but without clarity on what the situation actually is. But I think I do think we need to be, you know, aware of what's potentially being discussed, and as a community come together and say, absolutely not. Like, you know, you can't leave these children with nothing, because what on earth is going to happen? And for me, the challenge as well is, and I've seen this, without the proper support and support that really reflects the needs of the children, that actually doesn't just impact our children, it impacts all of the children in that classroom as well.
Yeah.
So it's not just our children that are going to be at detriment by potential policy changes like this, you know. And that's another scary place to be, because you're already in a situation, and we've faced it ourselves, the social stigma and isolation that you receive when you have a SEND child in mainstream and something goes wrong and situations are not as you would ever wish for them to be. That would only be exacerbated if we found ourselves in a situation where he no longer had that support.
Yeah, what will happen, it'll end up with more and more people having to homeschool, but
then they're trying to take away the rights for parents to be able to homeschool.
So what are the options?
What is the choice here? Trying to, you've got children who are just struggling so desperately, and we've seen it in our own family, lived experience of that, and it's devastating and heartbreaking to see the impact that has on the child and the family. It's just, it's not something that you'd ever wish for anyone to go through. So
no. And it's so frustrating as well, isn't it, that the people making these decisions aren't actually in the situation. Well, we don't know, but you would assume aren't in the situation themselves or know anyone in the situation themselves, because they wouldn't be making these monumentous decisions if they knew what this world looked like and how important EHCPs are on the children. It's just so frustrating.
Yeah, and I feel for the schools, because they're such stretch. That already, our school have really supported to try and get more funding for Max, and that's been successful, and I'm really grateful for the support that we've received. But I don't turn a blind eye to how under pressure they are, and how stretched they are, and how wouldn't it be lovely if they were able to properly support all of our children with all the different needs. And I know that's a utopia and maybe a dream that's idealistic, but I feel like, is that asking too much?
Yeah, exactly. What will happen if they're not being looked after and not getting an education? And you just think, well, what happens then?
Yeah, for sure. And we spoke to Lisa, didn't we, about the children who are sort of in between children that don't necessarily fit in specialist provision, or the specialist provision that's currently on offer at the moment, and don't quite fit into mainstream. And I will say Max is one of those children. He's very much in that grey area. So for me, discussions of taking the EHCP away for children in mainstream is just, a very scary prospect.
Yeah. Well, fingers crossed it doesn't come to that.
What do you think about it?
Oh, same as you. Completely agree. Yeah, absolutely terrifying. But with all these things, I'm like, the more that we can push back as a community, the better. I mean, whether our voices get heard or not, but I think if you don't try.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think we owe it to our children, don't we, that we have to raise awareness and speak up for them. We're the voices that they need, the reality of it. On a more positive note, because it was Izzy's birthday at the weekend, that means, Amy, that we have been friends for 2 years, because I think we've mentioned it on the podcast before, but we met through our daughters, not through our sons. So that means that we've known each other for 2 years.
Gosh, that's gone.
Happy 2-year
Happy 2-year anniversary.
Very cheesy, but I thought, actually, that's true. That's how we met each other. So
yeah, and nearly a year of the podcast.
I know,
it's just crazy.
Flown by.
Yeah.
Oh, it's been really good catching up.
Yeah, really nice to speak to you, as always. And thank you all so much for listening. Fingers crossed for the awards. We've got 2 guests coming on over the next couple of weeks. Who have we got, Kirst?
We've got a counselling psychologist coming on in the next couple of weeks, so that'll be really, really interesting. And she's got a real passion for post-diagnosis support and what happens with the lack of it. So that will be such an interesting topic to discuss, because I think, we've come at it from a very different side, where our children have been diagnosed quite young, but to hear their impact, and we've heard it from other guests, haven't we, about the impact of late diagnosis. So can't wait to speak to her.
Brilliant. And we've also got Mrs. Jessie Towns, who talks all things PDA. It's something we've touched on before, but it was really interesting to hear more about it, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. She was so honest and just gave such an honest reflection of her lived experience with her son. So that was fantastic to learn from her.
yeah, so we hope you enjoy. I'll speak to you soon.
Bye.
Bye everyone.